3 years ago, I sat at my family's Thanksgiving table for the last time. My mom passed the gravy. My dad carved the turkey. My brother Derek laughed at some joke his new wife Lauren made. Everything felt perfect, like one of those moments you want to freeze forever. But I noticed something in Lauren's eyes that night. Something cold behind her smile. I could not explain it then. 2 weeks later, my entire world collapsed because of a lie she told. Before I begin this story, let me know where you are watching from by dropping a comment below. If this story touches you in any way, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. What happened next taught me that sometimes the people closest to you can become strangers overnight. Let me tell you how it all began. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knows your name and your business. My dad, Richard, worked as an electrician for over 30 years. He was a quiet man, the type who showed love through actions rather than words. My mom, Sandra, worked as a nurse at the local hospital. She had this warm energy that made everyone feel welcome in our home. Then there was my brother Derek, 3 years older than me. Derek was always the golden child. Straight A student star of the basketball team, first one in our family to get a college degree. He became an accountant, bought a nice house, did everything right. I never resented him for it. I was proud of him, actually. My little sister Natalie came 5 years after me. She was the baby of the family, still in college, studying to become a teacher. We all adored her. And me, I was just Chuck, the middle child. I worked at a construction company for 12 years, starting right out of high school. I was not flashy or impressive. I just showed up every day, did my job, and came home. I was the quiet one, the dependable one, the one who never caused any trouble. Our family was close. Every Sunday we gathered at my parents' house for dinner. Birthdays, holidays, random Tuesday nights, when Mom felt like cooking too much food. We were always together. I thought nothing could break us apart. Then Lauren came into our lives. Derek met her at some networking event for his company. She was beautiful, I will give her that. Blonde hair, bright smile, the kind of presence that fills up a room the moment she walks in. She knew exactly what to say to make people like her. Within 2 months, my parents were calling her the daughter they never had. Natalie treated her like a best friend. They dated for 8 months before getting engaged. The wedding came 6 months after that. Fast, but Derek seemed happy, so none of us questioned it. But I noticed things. Small things that nobody else seemed to catch. Lauren had this habit of talking sweetly to someone's face, then saying cruel things about them the moment they left the room. She would tell my mom her cooking was amazing, then whisper to Derek that the chicken was dry. She controlled Derek's schedule, his friendships, even what he wore. And she lied about little things constantly. Where she went for lunch, who she talked to on the phone. Tiny lies that seemed pointless but happened all the time. I kept my mouth shut. It was not my marriage. It was not my place. Derek was a grown man who could make his own choices. Then came the day I saw her phone. It was a Sunday afternoon about a month before that last Thanksgiving. Lauren left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went to the bathroom. A message popped up on the screen. I was not trying to snoop. I just happened to be standing right there. The message was from someone named Tyler, with a heart emoji next to his name. It said, "Last night was incredible. Cannot wait to see you again." My stomach dropped. I stood there frozen, staring at those words, trying to convince myself they meant something innocent. Maybe Tyler was a cousin. Maybe it was about a work project. But deep down, I knew what I was looking at. 2 weeks later, I made the worst decision of my life. I asked Lauren about it. We were alone in my parents' backyard after dinner. I approached her carefully, keeping my voice calm and non-accusatory. I said I accidentally saw a message on her phone and asked if everything was okay with her and Derek. Her face went white. For just a second, I saw real fear in her eyes. Then, like flipping a switch, she composed herself. She laughed it off, said Tyler was just a coworker, said they were working on a project together and sometimes joked around. I nodded and told her I was just looking out for my brother. She smiled and said she appreciated it. But before she walked away, she looked back at me with an expression I will never forget. It was cold, calculating, like she was seeing me for the first time as a threat. I did not know it then, but in that moment, Lauren decided I needed to be eliminated. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, my family gathered at my parents' house again. It was a regular Sunday dinner. Nothing special. We ate pot roast and talked about the weather. Then Lauren started crying. It came out of nowhere. 1 minute she was fine, the next she was sobbing uncontrollably, pushing back from the table and running into the living room. Derek jumped up and followed her. We all exchanged confused looks before gathering around. What happened next destroyed my life. Between sobs, Lauren told everyone that I had done something to her. Something unspeakable. She said it happened the previous week when she came to my apartment to return a book she had borrowed. She said I pushed her against the wall. She said I touched her. She said she had to fight me off and run away. I stood there listening to these words come out of her mouth, and I could not breathe. It was like being underwater, sounds muffled, vision blurring. This was not happening. This could not be happening. When I finally found my voice, I denied it. I said she was lying. I said none of that ever happened. But when I looked around the room, I did not see belief in their eyes. I saw doubt. I saw disgust. I saw my mother's face crumbling as tears streamed down her cheeks. I saw my father's jaw tighten, his face turning red with rage. Derek did not ask questions. He did not wait for explanations. He lunged at me. His fist connected with my jaw before anyone could react. I fell backward, crashing into the coffee table. He got on top of me, hitting me again and again until my dad and a neighbor who heard the commotion pulled him off. "Get out!" Derek screamed. "Get out of this house and never come back." And just like that, the family I loved turned their backs on me. My father's words that night still echo in my head sometimes. He looked at me with more disgust than I had ever seen directed at any human being. He said I have no son named Chuck anymore. My mother just cried. She would not look at me. She would not defend me. She stood there with her hand over her mouth, tears falling, and said nothing. Natalie, my baby sister, who I had taught to ride a bike, who I had picked up from school when she was sick, who I had protected from bullies in middle school, she called me disgusting. She told me she wished I had never been born. Then she pulled out her phone and blocked my number right in front of me. I drove back to my apartment that night in a daze. I sat in the dark for hours trying to process what had just happened. I called my mom. No answer. I called my dad. Straight to voicemail. I called Derek, Natalie, even Lauren. Nobody picked up. In one evening, I went from being part of a loving family to being completely alone. But the nightmare was only beginning. Lauren did not just tell my family. She told everyone. Within a week, the entire town knew. In a small community like ours, gossip spreads faster than wildfire. I would walk into the grocery store and see people whispering, pointing, pulling their children closer as if I was some kind of monster. My coworkers, guys I had worked alongside for over a decade, stopped talking to me. They would leave the break room when I entered. They requested to be assigned to different job sites. The atmosphere became unbearable. 2 weeks after Lauren's accusation, my boss called me into his office. He was uncomfortable, could not meet my eyes. He said that to protect the work environment, it would be best if I resigned. He made it clear that if I did not quit, they would find a reason to fire me anyway. 12 years of perfect attendance, 12 years of hard work, and I walked out of that building with nothing but a box of personal belongings and a ruined reputation. My childhood friends disappeared too. Guys I had known since kindergarten, guys who came to my birthday parties and played on my Little League team, they all cut me off. I was radioactive. Nobody wanted to be associated with the town's monster. Only one person stood by me. Marcus, my best friend since 3rd grade. He told me privately that he believed me, that he knew I would never do something like that. But even Marcus had to keep his distance publicly. His wife was friends with Lauren. His kids went to school in our town. He could not risk his family's reputation for mine. I understood. I did not blame him, but it still hurt. I knew I could not stay in that town any longer. Every day was torture. Every sideways glance, every whispered conversation, every door that closed when I approached. I was drowning in a sea of judgment with no hope of reaching the surface. So I packed up everything I owned, which was not much, and moved 3 hours away to Columbus. I thought maybe distance would give me a chance to start over. Before I left, I tried one last time to prove my innocence. I consulted with a lawyer about suing Lauren for defamation, but he explained the harsh reality. Lauren had been careful. She never filed a police report. She never made any official accusation. She just confided in family and friends. Without documentation, without witnesses, without any evidence, I had no legal case. She had destroyed my life without leaving a single fingerprint. In Columbus, I found a small apartment and a job doing manual labor at a warehouse. I kept my head down. I did not make friends. I did not talk about my past. I just existed. For 3 years, I lived in a kind of gray limbo. I would wake up, go to work, come home, and stare at the walls. I stopped calling my family because the rejection hurt too much, but I never stopped writing to them. Every Christmas, I sent cards to my parents' house. Every birthday, I mailed letters explaining my side of the story, begging them to listen, asking for just one conversation. Every single one came back unopened. Return to sender stamped across the front. The worst part was the doubt that crept in during the darkest nights. When you hear the same story repeated by everyone you love, you start to question yourself. Did I do something wrong? Did I misremember? Was there some moment I blacked out and became a different person? I know now that this is what isolation does to your mind. It makes you doubt your own reality. I fell into a deep depression. I could not sleep. I stopped eating properly. I lost 30 pounds in 6 months. There were nights when I wondered if anyone would even notice if I disappeared completely. Eventually, I forced myself to seek help. I found a therapist who specialized in trauma. Week after week, I sat in her office and unpacked the wreckage of my life. She helped me understand that I could not control what other people believed. I could only control how I responded. She taught me coping strategies, helped me rebuild my sense of self-worth, reminded me that my value as a person did not depend on my family's opinion of me. Slowly, painfully, I started to heal. Not completely. The wound was too deep for that. But enough to function. Enough to get through each day without falling apart. I never stopped hoping that somehow, someday, the truth would come out. I just did not know how it would happen. Then Marcus called. It was almost 3 years to the day since Lauren's accusation. I saw his name on my phone and almost did not answer. We had not spoken in months. But something told me to pick up. His voice was rushed, excited, nervous. He said he had news. Big news. Derek and Lauren's marriage was falling apart. Derek had discovered that Lauren was having an affair with a coworker. Someone named Tyler, the same Tyler whose message I had seen on her phone 3 years ago. Marcus told me that Derek was devastated. He had started questioning everything. All the lies Lauren had told, all the stories that did not quite add up, including the story about me. A few nights earlier, Marcus had been at a bar and overheard Derek and Lauren arguing in the parking lot. Lauren had said something strange, something that made Derek go quiet. Marcus could not hear exactly what it was, but Derek's whole demeanor had changed afterward. I thanked Marcus and hung up. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. For 3 years I had waited for this. A crack in Lauren's armor. A chance for the truth to emerge, but I knew I had to be patient. I had to let this play out naturally. If I rushed in, I would look desperate, vindictive. So I waited and watched from a distance. The truth was coming. I could feel it. Derek, being the methodical accountant he was, did not confront Lauren right away. Instead, he started digging. He went through her phone records, her emails, her social media messages. What he found was worse than he imagined. Lauren's affair with Tyler had been going on for years. There were messages dating back to before she even accused me. Intimate messages, plans to meet at hotels, complaints about Derek being boring and too trusting. Then Derek made a crucial connection. He looked at the timeline. Lauren accused me exactly 2 weeks after that Sunday when I asked her about the suspicious text message. The same week I had confronted her about Tyler. It was not a coincidence. It was revenge. Derek needed to know for sure. So he did something clever. He started asking Lauren to tell him again what happened with me. He pretended to be supportive, said he wanted to understand her trauma better. But here is the thing about liars. They cannot keep their stories straight forever. The first time Lauren told the story, she said I pushed her against the wall in my kitchen. 3 years later, when Derek asked her to recount it, she said I dragged her into my bedroom. The kitchen, the bedroom. 2 completely different locations. 2 completely different stories. Derek did not react. He did not accuse her. He simply made a mental note and kept asking questions. Over the next few days, more inconsistencies emerged. Details that changed facts that contradicted each other. The story was unraveling. Then Derek set his trap. He told Lauren he wanted to have a serious conversation about their marriage. He said he was willing to forgive her affair if she was completely honest with him about everything. He made her feel safe, made her think she had won. What she did not know was that Derek had hidden his phone in his pocket, recording every word. He asked her again about me. He asked her to look him in the eyes and swear that I had actually done what she claimed. There was a long silence. Then Lauren said the words that set me free. I had to do it. He was going to ruin everything. He saw my messages. I had no choice. Derek asked her to clarify. Did she mean the messages from Tyler? Lauren, thinking she was in a safe confession, kept talking. She said I was a threat. She said if I had told Derek about Tyler 3 years ago, her whole plan would have collapsed. She needed to destroy my credibility before I could destroy hers. So she made up the story. All of it. I never touched her. I never threatened her. I never did anything except ask one innocent question about a text message, and for that she took everything from me. Derek had it all on recording. He drove 3 hours to Columbus without telling anyone where he was going. When I opened my door and saw my brother standing there, I did not know what to think. His face was pale, his eyes red and swollen like he had been crying for hours. Without saying a word, he stepped forward and hugged me. He held on tight and sobbed into my shoulder, his whole body shaking. When he finally pulled back, he could barely speak. He said 2 words, "I know." Then he showed me the recording. I sat on my couch and listened to Lauren's voice admitting everything, confessing that she had lied, explaining exactly why she did it. Each word was like a key unlocking a cage I had been trapped in for 3 years. I did not know what to feel. Relief, anger, vindication. It was all of those things, and none of them. Mostly I just felt tired. So incredibly tired. Derek dropped to his knees in front of me. He begged for my forgiveness. He said he had been the worst brother in the world. He said he should have asked questions, should have investigated, should have trusted his own flesh and blood over a woman he barely knew. I looked at my brother, broken and humiliated, on my floor, and I felt something I did not expect. Compassion. I pulled him to his feet and said, "You were lied to. We all were." The next day we drove back to Ohio together. Derek had already called our parents and told them he had something important to share. He did not tell them I was coming. When we walked through that front door, my mother screamed. My father stood up so fast he knocked over his coffee. Natalie just stared at me with wide eyes frozen in place. Before anyone could say anything, Derek held up his phone. He said, "You all need to hear this." For 5 minutes, my family stood in silence as Lauren's confession played through the speakers. Every lie exposed. Every manipulation revealed. Every horrible thing she had done to protect her affair laid bare. When it ended, my mother collapsed into a chair sobbing. She kept saying "my baby" over and over, reaching out toward me like I might disappear if she did not hold on. My father did not say anything at first. He just stood there, staring at the floor. Then he turned and walked out of the room without a word. I thought maybe he could not face me. Maybe the guilt was too much. But a few minutes later he came back. And for the first time in my 30 years of life, I saw my father cry. He walked up to me, his face wet with tears, and said, "I failed you, son. I failed you as a father. I will spend the rest of my life trying to make this right." I hugged him. I hugged my mother. I hugged Natalie, who could not stop apologizing, who kept saying she was so sorry, so incredibly sorry. For the first time in 3 years, I felt like I had a family again. As for Lauren, she got what was coming to her. Derek filed for divorce immediately. When word spread about what she had done, the same town that had shunned me turned against her. She left within a month, moved somewhere, nobody knew her name. I could have pressed charges. My lawyer said I had a strong case now with the recording as evidence. But I chose not to. Not because I forgave her. I did not. What she did was unforgivable. But I refused to spend another minute of my life focused on Lauren. She had already stolen 3 years from me. I was not going to give her anything else. Healing did not happen overnight. You cannot undo 3 years of damage with a single conversation, no matter how emotional it is. For months after the truth came out, things were awkward with my family. There were long silences during dinners, questions that hung in the air unanswered, guilt that showed on their faces every time they looked at me. We started small, short visits, simple meals, conversations about nothing important just to get used to being around each other again. Slowly, we rebuilt what Lauren had destroyed. Natalie became my closest ally in the family. She felt the most guilt, I think, because of how young she was when it happened. She had believed the lie without question, had said terrible things to me, had blocked me completely. Now she called me every week, sometimes every day. She wanted to make sure I knew she loved me, that she would never doubt me again. I told her, "You were young. You believed what you were told. I understand." And I meant it. I could not hold grudges against people who had been manipulated just like me. We were all victims of Lauren's scheme. My parents tried to make up for lost time in their own ways. My mom cooked my favorite meals whenever I visited. My dad helped me fix things around my apartment, showing love the only way he knew how. We never talked directly about those 3 years. Maybe someday we will. But for now, it was enough just to be together. I decided to stay in Columbus. It might seem strange, choosing to live in the city that represented my darkest period. But Columbus was also where I had learned to survive, where I had rebuilt myself from nothing. It felt right to plant my roots there. I took the money I had saved from years of warehouse work and started my own small construction company. It was not big, just me and 2 employees to start, but it was mine. For the first time in my life, I was my own boss, building something that belonged to me. About a year after Lauren's confession, I met someone. Her name is Grace. She works as a physical therapist at a clinic downtown. We met at a coffee shop, both of us reaching for the last blueberry muffin. I let her have it. She insisted on buying me coffee as thanks. On our third date, I told her everything. The accusation, the exile, the years of isolation, all of it. I figured she deserved to know what she was getting into. She listened to the whole story without interrupting. When I finished, she took my hand and said, "That must have been incredibly hard. Thank you for trusting me with it." She did not run. She did not look at me differently. She just accepted my past as part of who I am. We have been together for 2 years now. I am thinking about asking her to marry me. I still go to therapy once a month. Not because I am broken, but because I understand now that mental health needs maintenance, just like physical health. The sessions help me process old wounds and prevent new ones from festering. As for Lauren, I do not know where she is now, and I do not care. I used to fantasize about confronting her, about making her feel the pain she caused me. But that anger faded over time. Now when I think of her, I just feel pity. Imagine living a life built entirely on lies. Imagine never being able to trust anyone, because you know how easily trust can be betrayed. That is a prison worse than anything I experienced. I learned a lot from those 3 years in the wilderness. I learned that the truth has a way of surfacing no matter how deep someone tries to bury it. I learned that the people who love you can still hurt you, and that forgiving them is a choice you make for yourself, not for them. I learned that your worth as a person does not depend on whether others believe in you. Most importantly, I learned that darkness does not last forever. Even the longest night eventually gives way to dawn. If you are going through something similar, if someone has lied about you, if your family has turned against you, if you feel completely alone in the world, I want you to know this: your truth matters. Even when no one believes you, hold on to who you are. The people who are meant to be in your life will find their way back. And if they do not, you will find new people who deserve your trust. A few weeks ago, we had Thanksgiving at my parents' house. First time in over 3 years that I sat at that table. Grace was there, meeting everyone for the first time. My mom passed the gravy. My dad carved the turkey. Derek made a joke, and we all laughed. Nobody mentioned the past. We just talked about the present and the future. And for the first time in years, I felt like I truly belonged. Sometimes the longest journey is not about distance. It is about finding your way back to the people who finally see you for who you truly are. Now I have a question for you. Have you ever been in a situation where someone you trusted turned against you and you had to fight to prove your innocence? How did you handle it? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who is going through something similar. If this story touched you, please hit the like button and share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you have not already, subscribe to this channel so you do not miss future stories. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope that whatever challenges you are facing, you find the strength to keep going. The truth always finds a way. Take care of yourselves and remember, your story is not over yet.